Hello everyone. Oh my god, I feel like the work week is never gonna end. Well, it is only Thursday, but still can't believe we're about a little bit over halfway through season 7. I think at the rate I keep going with this, I think I might be able to get through it in time. But yeah, I guess maybe now would be the perfect time to address something really quick. Is that you may have noticed that I'm starting to review episodes on my laptop again, and well, obviously, yeah, I'm doing it mostly because now it's a lot easier to do and it's easier to start and pause things. But even more so we'll get to it when we reach the end of the season. But tonight's episode is yet another episode that I actually forgot about. No, but then I remembered it somewhat. I think that's just kind of the thing with me. I remember some episodes more than others. Like the episodes that I remember, that I know are really good, I stick in my mind. The episodes that I despise, they like for the same reason. But then you get those episodes in between where you kind of think to yourself, now watch this? Well, in any case, that episode is Triple Threat. So this episode begins with basically the ponies making a big party while Spike is basically the one organizing.
By which I mean completely out of view.
So why exactly is all this happening?
For no reason. I have lots of reasons. That, I wrote them down. Or Ember to pony.
So yeah, essentially the reason that Spike wants the ponies in Ponyville to set up this grand N-esque party is because he basically asked Ember to come over. If you remember from the Gauntlet of Fire, the new proclaimed Dragon Lord is now coming to Ponyville, so Spike wants to make it perfect as much as possible.
Reason number 4. The Dragon Lord wants my advice, and as the new official equestrian friendship ambassador to the dragons, I can't let her down. I know you feel a lot of pressure, but you got this, Spike. I just want things to be perfect.
But then things start to get complicated when Thorax shows up.
I can't believe you did all this for me. Right there. Off the stage. What's this flame thingy? Oh, it's pretty.
Thorax. Even as a leader, you're still so precious to me. But yeah, essentially, Spike accidentally invited both Thorax and Ember to Ponyville on the same day. So yeah.
Thorax showed us that he needed to talk, and I told him to come over. I didn't realize it was the same day I invited Ember. What am I gonna do? Well, maybe they'll like each other. Probably not. Ember is tough and self-assured and intimidating, and Thorax is
Spike, I'm so glad you invited me. You are one of my closest, nicest, most caring, most understanding friends ever. Ooh, is that ice in the shape of a dragon?
I like how he doesn't even question and why there's an ice sculpture of a dragon. But yeah. So I think you probably know where this episode leads, where essentially it's pretty much going to be another Spike puts himself in a horrible situation episode. And since I said that, it's another Spike episode. But believe it or not, spoilers, this is actually one of the better Spike episodes that we've seen in a while. Because we do see Spike basically freak out to the point where he's concerned that if Ember and Thorax don't get along, the changelings and the dragons are going to start a massive war, which basically causes him to hyperventilate.
I'm sure that won't happen. Now pull it together. So, Thorax, everything good with you?
Well, honestly, no, not really. I have indigestion.
Kind of makes you wonder how a changeling's digestive system works. But before Thorax can explain himself, Spike sees Ember in the distance and basically tries to separate the two of them as he essentially starts the whole royal band playing when Ember arrives.
Dragon Lord Ember! As the official equestrian friendship ambassador for the Dragonlands and for Ponyville, I, Spike of Ponyville, welcome you to Ponyville. I'm gonna work on my official speech.
Honestly, that's kind of me when I have to make up intros every time I start one of these reviews.
Okay, thanks. Right, the hug thing.
Even then, I really do like how Ember doesn't feel too uncomfortable with it. I mean, yeah, she is a dragon and she does feel a bit uncomfortable, but just seeing her being with Spike, it's kind of like older sister, younger brother relationship from the way I see it.
This place has a lot of colors. In the Dragonlands, everything's just rocks or the color of ash.
Well, that would explain everything in the Dragonlands.
That's probably why.
Yeah. So, and of course, since how, even with, which then I guess leads kind of a question, even though that Ponyville has been with Spike for like, what, 6.5 seasons now, basically having a real dragon in Ponyville causes everybody to panic. And this, of course, this leads to the misconception. And we do get this running joke that is a bit funny. Essentially, the running joke is that throughout the episode, Ember confuses Twilight for Starlight. And given in the comparisons that everybody has had with both of these characters, you gotta admit, it is pretty funny. So essentially because Spike doesn't want to have any kind of basically misunderstanding or confusion of Thorax and Ember running into each other, he tries to get Starlight to basically spend time with Ember, while Twilight, who was basically distracting Thorax earlier, keep them separated from as long as possible.
You must be hungry from your travels. Please, I'd love to present you with an official friendship welcome banquet. So this is something friends do? I can get used to this.
Oh, that's one of the things. But, of course, obviously, since it's Ember, we do have to think with dragon logic, and essentially, anything that's made out of crystal is actually considered food to them. I do feel bad for all the food that Spike kind of put together. Though, if it was basically some of the treats that were made, does that mean that Pinkie Pie was asked to make some of those? If that's the case, then she's probably losing her mind seeing those treats not get eaten.
Actually, that's not food. Dragons love gems. Fine, but you're telling Twilight what happened to her wall. Just over here.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be the explanation. I'll probably be amazed that Twilight's castle is still standing when this whole visit is over. So, while Starlight continues to distract Ember, we get to see Twilight being her usual adorkable self, distracting Thorax, who is completely enthralled with how she sits in chairs.
This is my studying chair because the hard back keeps me awake.
And the great expressions are ever. And also an absolute mood when I have to sit on the work chair for about 8 hours. The days in the life of the adulting world.
Oh, Spike! I'm so glad you're here. Well, this castle visit is getting weird.
Weird? It's basically, I would say anything but basically, this is a cartoon about talking horses. I think weird is the least of your concerns, Thorax.
Twilight really likes chairs. Oh, what happened to the ice cream?
What? Oh, be right back.
But we didn't get to talk yet.
Ember's here. I know. I saw you coming and had to distract Thorax by showing him chairs. Why did you bring Ember to the castle of all places? I don't know. Ember was asking for you. Thorax wants to talk with me. We need to switch places. It might be getting suspicious.
So yeah, this is pretty much the point of the episode where Spike's starting to let his paranoia get the better of him. And essentially, I think this is basically yet another episode that leads to assumptions, and that we can't assume things are going to happen unless you talk about them. And we all know how well that turned out last time. And yes. So this episode is a bit predictable with the don't assume anything unless you confront your friends, which has been done many a times, even all the way back in Season 1. And the biggest example that I've mentioned is obviously All's Well That Ends Well. But before we can get even further, Spike's basically scales start to glow.
I think it's the map.
So yeah, this is actually admittedly a nice change of pace I didn't see coming. A couple things is that the way that Spike gets summons for a friendship problem, his scales on his head actually light up and similar to the main 6's cutie mark. But yeah, the map is summoning Spike for a friendship problem. I mean, obviously I think we knew that since obviously a royal problem, the map has the ability to call other ponies beyond just the main 6. But yeah, I really honestly didn't think that Spike was going to be called for a friendship problem. And on top of that, in all the previous map episodes, the friendship problem is usually pointed. The map basically calls the friendship problem in like the first few minutes of the episode, even before the theme song plays. But it's now calling upon the friendship problem only 8 minutes into the episode. So yeah, that's a nice bit of change of pace. But of course, like every other friendship problem, Spike has absolutely no idea what the problem is.
The map is really reaching out. Not a good time, I guess. Spike, are you here? Ember's eaten all of Twilight's decorations and... Oh, it's Twilight!
I'm surprised that they didn't cut to Twilight when Starlight said this, and she's like, wait, what did she just say?
Glowing map. Glowing Spike.
And you also may have noticed, if you look at the map is hovering over Ponyville. And I think you kind of know where this leads to, but Spike doesn't know.
You two need to keep Ember and Thorax separate while I get ice cream. You mean find the friendship problem? Yes. Go easy on me. I'm under a lot of pressure.
With a line like that, there's a lot of things that I could really say. I think I made this very clear in a lot of my older reviews. Basically, before Season 4, I have not been the biggest fan of Spike. I know, I've been very subtle about it. But think about it, I was 15, 16, and 17 when I reviewed the first 3 seasons. And I had not a lot of experience. And obviously, a lot of the hatred for Spike, for me, has died down since then. Unless it's episodes like Princess Spike, which for whatever reason just reignites the rage. But then there's lines like this where it's this close, but you know that he's learned better by now. But enough of the diatribe. So Spike basically goes around Ponyville and tries to find a friendship problem, and does come across one with Lyra and Bonbon, and he thinks it's the problem. And meanwhile, we cut back to Ember, who is still chewing on the walls of the castle.
Here you are. Okay, right. More pony hugs.
It kind of makes you wonder how soft pony hugs are now that you think about it.
Ponyville so far? Well, I'm certainly learning a lot about friendship. I had no idea it was polite to decorate your walls in your friend's favorite food.
I'm surprised that Twilight doesn't have a much bigger reaction than that. And like I said, I'm surprised that the room is, since it looks like that Ember eating all the pillars, I'm surprised that the room is still standing.
Oh my. Where'd Spike and Starlight go? I feel like I'm being avoided. No, they're just making sure everything is perfect for your welcome party later. In the meantime, how about I show you around town? Sounds good. I can't exactly learn about friendship if I don't make new friends.
Well, but we kind of saw where that went, and... So meanwhile, we then see Starlight basically trying to spend time with Thorax, which you think would be interesting considering that the two of them did work together in To Where and Back Again, and on top of that, Starlight was the one that basically helped Thorax take leadership away from Chrysalis. So you'd think that we would get some nice meetups there.
Thorax? Twilight and Spike have some boring official paperwork to deal with. So, would you like to do?
But I wanted to talk with Spike. He said he'd be right back.
Oh, you will. But first, how about we grab a bite to eat?
Huh. Well, now that you've said it, I am a little hungry. Is there a dining room in the castle?
No!
So basically we then get to yet again where Spike thought that he basically covered the friendship issues, his scales aren't really glowing, but then comes across Starlight and Thorax as he then basically wants to spend time with him.
It was a really, really great idea.
Well, maybe now we can talk.
I like how Starlight just goes down the bub and is just basically like, okay, I'm out of here.
Sure. I'll leave you guys to it.
Oh, never mind.
I want to say thank you for having me over. I'm in a bit of a leadership pickle, and I could use some advice.
Yeah, so one of the complaints that was brought up about Thorax's leadership in Celestial Advice, since it was just kind of like a brief overview, is that everybody just assumed that once Thorax took leadership away from Chrysalis, he's automatically a good leader. But this episode does a good job at addressing that even though it's been some episodes, not everything has been completely smooshed over with the changelings after Chrysalis was dethroned. As Thorax explains to Spike.
Well, I definitely want to help you out as quickly as possible.
Here's my problem. There's this renegade group of changelings who still feed off of luck. Even though I said, hey, let's not do that anymore, they say, hey, this is how we've been doing things for hundreds of years. It's like...
So yeah, that's a bit of an interesting development that makes it think. Because even though, as I said, everybody that assumed from Celestial Advice that there was the brief, basically, line of dialogue where Thorax said that everything was good from taking over leadership away from Chrysalis, it seems that those lines indicate that not everything in the Changeling Hive has completely changed. And that if there's some renegade changelings, then that means there's some dissension in them, and potentially it gets a lot of thinking that there might be some civil unrest within the changelings, and this kind of could lead to what happened with the Suma family. If you're familiar with Dynasty Warriors, and you saw how the Sumas basically stripped power away from Wei, it kind of leads to something like that, and it makes you think, could there potentially be some uprising within the changelings? This episode gives you a lot of stuff to think about. So essentially, while this is happening, Ember and Twilight are also in town.
Winner of the Gauntlet of Fire and Lord of all Dragons.
And Ember ends up scaring the ponies yet again.
Usually when I do that, the dragons are eager to be. That's not how ponies make friends. I get it.
I don't get it.
This is a weird friendship thing you ponies do, right? You guys are in town too? What are you talking about? You've been with me this whole time.
Again, just the little things in this episode that make me laugh. And then essentially we get the diatribe from Ember as to why Starlight and Twilight are just so similar.
I'm sorry, but you can't blame me. You both look and act so much alike. What?
I think that's what a lot of people have been saying about those two, as far as I know, for a few years.
They said Chapdork saw first.
So while Spike tries to fix another issue that he thinks is a friendship problem, we basically then get back to the thing that I just find funny, where Ember basically dives in the bit and tries to basically give reasons as to why Starlight and Twilight are so similar.
Just say it. You're both purple ponies with...
Okay, well, first of all, I think Twilight, I'm looking at the color schemes, and it seems like Twilight is more of a darker shade of purple. I think Starlight's kind of more lavender, I think would be the color. But, semantics.
Purple hair.
Well, then on top of that, I think Starlight's hair is more of a light purple, while Twilight's more darker-ish.
You both have cutie marks with sparkly faces. Mine's more of a glimmer.
Honestly, ever since I've watched She-Ra and the Princess of Power, I can't help but think of Glimmer.
How is that different? Oh, good. Spike, can you please tell these two I'm right? They look very similar. Well, you know, one thing French do is when something going, it's upsetting somebody else. But I'm right. Besides, who are you to be telling me about friendship? I've barely seen you all day. Well, I've seen...
But essentially, the whole thing ends up boiling over when Ember ends up yelling at Spike and Thorax seeing Spike threatened. He then transforms into a bear. Which then kind of makes you wonder why the changelings ever thought to turn to bears. But this essentially leads to what Spike had feared, and basically So he basically steps in as the two basically fight over each other, and we get to the assumption where Spike finally blurts out everything out of fear.
Dragon's about to begin! It's all my fault! My title of Equestrian's Friendship Ambassador is alive! Oh, hey, you guys aren't fighting?
But then both Thorax and Ember get incredibly disappointed and angry at Spike as the two basically fly away. But then we cut to them as we see...
Why are you still here?
Because I'm having trouble leading my pack, so I don't really want to go home.
Wait, you're in charge? Oh, wait, you need to be more assertive.
Well, that's my problem. I don't know how. I tried asking them to please follow my direction. I even offered a prize, and then...
Shh, stop talking. That's how you do it.
So yeah, I really like how we get this scene between Ember and Thorax. We get to see a scene between two characters that we don't really see all that often, and it's just nice to see the way they're acting with each other, as Ember basically is there for Thorax to essentially help him build up some confidence and basically essentially just not be a complete and total pushover.
Whoa, that just gave me chills.
I know you have it in you. You turned into a bear to defend Spike.
I guess I can be tough when I'm defending my friends, but when I'm just enforcing my rules, I feel unsure of myself.
There's nothing to be unsure. You're the leader for a reason. Make a decision and let it be known that the decision is final. And if that doesn't work, turn into a bear.
It's just like what I said, I really wish that the changelings could turn into bears more often. Then I probably would have used that Christopher Walken Country Bears joke probably sooner than I did.
Well, that's good advice.
I know it.
So, what's your deal? Why do you think you're so bad at friendship?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, you have to. How else are you going to solve your problems?
So yeah, then we get the other side of the coin where while Ember essentially is helping Thorax essentially be more of assertive and not much of a pushover, we then get the opposite side where basically Thorax basically tries to get Ember to basically let her guard down and be more open about her feelings.
Hey, kind of low. Definitely not happy.
That's because that kind of competition can divide you, and it doesn't get to the heart of the issue. Talking about your feelings does.
I think I'm allergic to feelings.
I don't know why, but that line always cracks me up.
You know, you don't have to be sappy or huggy-feely about it, but you should let your friends know how you feel.
And essentially that's exactly what they do when they go back to Ponyville to basically talk to Spike, who is feeling a lot of guilt. FYI, you're not getting help on this one, Spike. You're on your own. That's probably the thing that Twilight was essentially saying.
Guess what, Spike?
So Ember essentially basically does what she can to try and be more basically express her feelings in the way that Ember only knows how.
That's a good first attempt. Now maybe try to be more civic.
I'm upset. You have every right to be. I know I do. And I know I need to tell you how I feel because my friend, Thorax, said it would make me feel better. And it does.
Yeah, and I have no problem telling you what you did was wrong because my friend Ember is helping
honestly, Spike basically worried himself over nothing, as Ember and Thorax are essentially really good friends. And I think the way I would probably describe this relationship is probably similar to how Ember sees in Spike, is that it's more like siblings helping each other out.
You guys should be mad at me. I was so worried about how it could go wrong, I didn't even think about how it could go right.
Yeah. So essentially the moral, like I said, this essentially is another moral of don't just assume anything, say anything, or do about your friendship. Just confront it head on and be more focused and think about what could go right instead of think about what's wrong. However, unlike in episodes like, say, Owls Well, It Ends Well, it doesn't suck because, number one, they called Spike out on this issue earlier on, and number two, everybody owns up to their issues, and it's easy to digest and understand.
Can you forgive me? I really do feel better. So, yeah, I'm good.
Me too.
Again?
But essentially, it turns out that obviously, if the audience couldn't figure it out, that was essentially the friendship problem as Spike scales glows, and he basically fixes the problem.
I solved the friendship problem. Actually, you created the friendship problem by not trusting your friends. Yeah, but then I solved it by learning my lesson.
Yeah, and actually sticking with it this time.
I should have told my two friends about each other immediately, instead of assuming they wouldn't get along. Good job, Spike. Is this another part of pony friendship? Telling each other what you learned all the time?
God, Ember is so awesome. So then we get basically the meeting, eating, and the celebration of the dragons and the changelings basically working together.
Thorax, leader of the changeling pack. May the flame of friendship burn for eternity. You should have more things made of rocks.
Oh, God. Okay, so that was Triple Threat, and I had a lot of fun with this one. There's not really anything inherently wrong with this episode. I mean, yeah, outside of it being predictable and being yet another don't just assume anything, actually address the problem head on first type of episode. However, as a Spike episode goes, this is one of the better Spike episodes that I've seen in a while. Well, I just really love a lot of the humor that just left me in stitches a lot of the time, and on top of that, just seeing the interactions with Ember and Thorax just really put a smile on my face, just not only seeing them again, but seeing two characters that we rarely seen just interact off each other is just a lot of fun. Yeah, and honestly, there really wasn't just a whole lot to complain. I mean, I think Spike should have probably been able to basically figure it out by now, to basically not just assume everything, since, again, this isn't the first time that he's learned from that. But, again, it didn't really hinder the episode all that much. It was just really an all-around enjoyable episode. There's not really anything inherently wrong with it, but there's probably just some things that you kind of make you scratch your head a bit. And I guess maybe some of the things, like, some of the jokes don't always hit, and because of the predictability, and because we've seen this type of moral done from this particular show a bunch of times, you kind of know where the points and beats go. But again, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. I think maybe Triple Threat was probably a better episode than I give it credit for, because I remember liking the episode fine, but I really enjoyed it. So I think as a whole, I would say Triple Threat, I think is about a B+. I think it probably would have been A-, but I just think that there are some things that this episode could have done a little bit better, and I think in some of the stuff I did mostly skip over, mostly because I kind of knew where it was going. But other than that, I think it's a good episode. So yeah, Triple Threat is a B+. Alright. Well, that was definitely a good episode to go through. So with that, I'm Flip Can Gamer, and next time we're going to look at Campfire Tales. See you guys next time. Bye.